everyone. Today we're going to be talking about custom data types or classes. So you are all familiar with data types. A data type, an integer is an example of a data type. String is an example of a data type. You also have doubles, your booleans. All of these are data types. Now, what is a custom data type? A custom data type is a data type that you can implement, anyone can implement, and you get to decide its function. So you get to decide how it acts. You can make functions for it. You can add multiple variables for it. So today we're going to look at this through the lens of a hockey team. So let's say you have a hockey team, right? How would you store this in C++? Well, you could store it as a string, but that's just the name. You also have wins and losses for this hockey team. There's also fans, there's players on the team, there's all sorts of stuff. So how can we wrap this up into one data type? So first, we just need to get an introduction to the syntax. So the first thing you do is you say class, and then you say the name of your data type. So our data type is going to be called hockey team. Inside of a custom data type, you have public and private variables. Public variables are ones that can be accessed anywhere outside the scope of the class. Private variables can only be accessed within class, so you couldn't access anything in private within main. Now we can look at an example of this. So inside this one, we've started implementing our hockey team. So we're saying there's a number of fans, which we just initially set to 10,000. And then we have our private variables. We have the string, that's team name. We have the integer wins, integer losses. So in main here, we've declared our first custom data type. So what you do is you call the class, and then you give it this is the individual variable name of our specific instance of this class, our object. So to access a public variable, we can just use this dot operator. So we say Red Wings dot number of fans. Now we're accessing this data type for the Red Wings instance. So we can set it to 100, so we've now changed this to be equal to 100, and we could see that if we printed it out. Now we want to try to do this to our private member variable, but we see that it doesn't work. So we have this redwings.wins, and the compiler doesn't like that. It says we can't do that, and that's because it's a private member variable. So how do we access these private member variables? So this is where the concept of getters and setters come in. Any function or anything inside the class, public functions can access these private member variables. So what we can do is we can set a public function to set wins, where we put in an integer for wins and set it equal to wins. We can do a get wins or a get team name, which would just return the team name. So that's a way to access these private member variables externally without breaking the interface, without making the compiler mad at you. So here we have an example. I've made 3 hockey teams for you. I've given them their names. I've set their names. So you'll see I have this set team name where I input a string. I can set their wins. The Red Wings aren't doing too well this year. Set their losses. I can tell them to win a game, which will increment their wins, as we can see in this function that I've done here. And then I have this number of fans thing where I can access that variable out here because it's a public member variable. Now, something really cool that we can do with these custom data types is we can put them in an array. So as we know, you just need to declare the type of the array before. So this is a hockey team array. Now I've put in the Red Wings variable name, Avalanche variable name, and the Oilers. So these are 3 hockey teams. I put them in, and then I can call a for loop on this array, and then I can call this public function on our instances. So if I take out these other compiler sources, we can run this as an example and see what this does. And yeah, so it's printed out with this print team info function that we wrote in the public member variables. And we can just see their team names, their wins, their losses, the oof, because their wins is under a certain amount. And that's just a basic introduction to custom data types and classes. I hope this was helpful.